Today I'm going to be walking you through how to crochet this top. It is super beginner friendly, like even if you've never picked up a crochet needle, you can do this. So we're going to start by making the cup. In order to make the cup, we're going to start with a slip stitch. In order to make a slip stitch, you're going to make the breast cancer sign and then use your index and thumb, and you're going to pull through your yarn and then pull the tail end and that previous yarn, and then you're going to insert the crochet hook that matches and corresponds with your yarn into it, and you're going to start by chaining. In order to chain, you're yarning over and then pulling through. You're going to do that 3 times, and then we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to start by doing a double crochet. This is one of the most beginner-friendly stitches that you can do in crocheting, and it's going to be the bulk of a lot of beginner crochet projects, so really get acquainted with this stitch. So what you're first going to do is yarn over, insert your hook into your stitch, and then you're going to yarn over again, have 4 stitches on your loop, and then pull through the third top one, yarn over again, pull through the middle 2, and then yarn over again, and you're going to pull through the bottom 2. And you're going to finish that until the end of the row, so you'll have 3 double crochets for row 1. After you finish doing your double crochets, you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to flip your work. Now you're going to insert your next double crochet, and we're expanding this into the shape of a triangle. So what we need to do is increase every single row. So you're going to do a double crochet for the entire triangle, but you're going to be inserting in your increases in the middle of the triangle. So because there were 3 stitches in the previous row, we're going to now increase to 4 stitches. We're going to do an increase by 1 extra stitch per row, so that means adding in a second double crochet in the same stitch in that middle stitch of that row. So for this one, you're inserting your second double crochet in that second stitch, and then you're going to do a double crochet in your last stitch, and that's going to bump you up to 4 stitches total for that row. Then chain 1 again and turn your work. Now we are working with 4 stitches and we're moving on to 5 stitches for the next row, and that makes this an odd row. So you're going to do your double crochet like normal. And if you get a fray like that, that's totally fine. It's normal, it happens. Just make sure you redo it so that you don't have a fray, because that will weaken your project. Now, in where that second double crochet was that I'm pointing to, you're going to insert in 2 double crochets in that same stitch, and that's what's going to expand our row in the middle. So for any stitch that you work with, it's kind of the same pattern. You can increase by just putting 2 in that same place, no matter what stitch you're working with. So I'm going to just add in my 2 double crochets in that stitch, and this is going to be an odd stitch because this is going to be getting me up to the 5th stitch in the row, which is an odd number. And you're going to start to see it's starting to get a fanned out look. It's not very triangular yet, but it will be. So just chain again and then flip your work, and keep repeating this process of inserting 2 double crochets in the middle stitch of each row. You're going to just have to keep track of what the middle stitch is by every time you crochet a new row, just remembering, oh, like I'm on the 5th row, so that means there's 6 or 7 stitches total for that row, like whatever it is, and you're always increasing the stitch per row by 1. So it's only an increase of 1. So as long as you kind of know where you're at, you're pretty much going to be able to figure out, oh, we're actually inserting the second double crochet in the 4th stitch or the 18th stitch. So you just have to keep track that way. It's a little tedious to keep counting, but at least you know then your project will be symmetrical. And so here I'm just literally counting. I like to recount every single time just to make sure that I'm doing it right. But you can also make this into a diagram and just like write down before you even start crocheting, oh, this is the increase per this row. If you don't want to have to do the math as you're crocheting, because I do know that that is a little bit more of a time consuming while you're crocheting. You rather just like crochet in the moment instead of taking a break and being like, oh, I have to do this math every single row. So you could do that beforehand. For me, it wasn't as imperative to do, but just remember, always insert 2 double crochets in that middle stitch of the row. And now you're going to start to notice that the project is actually fanning out into a triangle. That's exactly what you want. If you notice that it's not looking like a triangle, then you haven't done your increases properly. So just make sure that it starts to look like a triangle. And then you want to create 2 of these that completely cover your boobs. So this is case by case. But for my particular one, I did about 8.5 inches for the width and about the same. It's about 9 inches or 7 inches for the length. So it just depends on how big you are. I am a B cup, so that is what I had to do. Then you're going to work with your next color. So you have to actually take out the stitch and then do your double crochet as normal. And you're going to yarn over, pull through both those 3rd top and the middle 2, but then instead of yarning over and pulling through those last 2 with the pink, I'm going to do that with the yellow that I'm working with, and that's just going to automatically make it so it's a seamless color switch. And from there, we're going to use our next color and make a transitional row is what I like to call it, by chaining 2,000 chains. It feels like you're going to chain as much that's going to cover the back half. So your triangles are going to go in the front of you and it's going to be a tie up. So the chain needs to be long enough that it continues to cover your back. And then you're going to attach this by joining it to the other triangle. And just try to be as careful as possible with this because you can't really have a twisted crochet moment, but this is exactly what it would look like. So the yellow piece would be in the back and then the 2 crochet cups are in the front of you. And once you have that down, what you're going to do is just go in and you're going to do a single crochet within the cups. So you want to take any yarn that's kind of sitting there and make sure that it just gets naturally weaved into the project like I'm doing here with that pink yarn, and I'm just holding the pink yarn close to the stitches that I'm going into so that it just naturally gets weaved in and I don't have to worry about weaving it in later. And then I'm going to do a single crochet down the line. So in order to do a single crochet, insert your hook in, yarn over in the middle, and then yarn over again, and you're going to pull through those bottom 2. And this is the smallest beginner friendly stitch. It's a very popular stitch, but it produces the smallest stitch, so it definitely can be time consuming to keep doing this stitch, which is why I do not recommend doing an entire project of single crochet unless you're following an alpha pattern. So finish that to the end of the row, and once you've finished it to the end of the row, you're going to be doing the same process again, kind of. You're going to chain one and then flip your work. So now you have that single crochet there, and from there just make sure you're staying tight, and then you're going to do a double crochet. This is going to be like almost not edging, but just like a solid barrier before you start a new type of stitch. So you have that double crochet, you're going to then chain two, and now we're going to do something called the mesh stitch. So it's a double crochet essentially with a bit of a gap. So you're going to go into that third stitch, and you're going to do a double crochet as normal, but you're just skipping those two chains stitches, and then you're going to chain two again, and then skip another two bottom stitches and do a double crochet again in that third stitch from there. And this is going to create like a rectangular box gap. It's bigger dependent on how much you chain and how big you leave in between the stitches to insert that double crochet. So you can make it a box, you can make it a huge rectangle, a small rectangle, but you're going to continue doing that till you reach the end of the row. Now once you reach that end of the row, we're going to do that same barrier where we do just a double crochet, no mesh, just so that it's a contained look. And then from there, again, you're going to chain one and flip your work. And you're repeating the same process of doing a chain two so that it builds up, and then inserting a double crochet into each box. So in this case, you don't have to go through any stitches necessarily. You're going through each box to insert that double crochet. So you're still doing the chain two every time just so that you have that separation, but you're going to be doing it into the boxes. So you're going to continue doing that stitch until you reach your desired length. The longer that this is, the more coverage you'll have. The smaller it is, the less coverage you have, and then you can cut your yarn. And we're going to attach these two triangle tops at the top just so that you have a more halter look by using a darning needle. And once you have your darning needle, you just insert it in with your tail end of the pink. And sometimes you do have to roll it like this just to make it easier to go in. It's the same way with like sewing. Sometimes it's hard to get it in, and you're just going to insert your hook inside and then pull through. You want to just continue to weave it in so that it's a solid like foundation. Same way that you would sew something together. The more stitches that are closer together, the tighter it is, the more foundation, the stronger the foundation is. And you do not ever want to tie your projects like this. I see this so many times from beginners. Absolutely do not do this unless you absolutely need to, and for some reason that you have to. Please explain to me, because it just doesn't happen. Instead, take the rest of your tail ends and just weave it directly into the rest of the stitches that are there by just going back and forth in random places. This yarn is going to get hidden. You won't see it. It's fine. But do not tie your yarn into a knot. That ruins the yarn. It ruins the project. And then we're going to insert in the tie up piece, and that's going to go into that top two pieces where the mesh starts. And all you have to do again is make that slip stitch, insert your hook into that, and then we're going to do a chain. The longer your chain is, the more the ribbon can be. So that means a longer bow. It means it's going to dangle more. So this is up to you of how long you want to make it. But once you have the exact length that you feel you're good with, you can just tie this one off. And then we're going to use a darning needle again and insert this into the tail end of the pink yarn and pull that through the mesh. If this happens, that's okay. Again, just pull it out and rewind it, and that's going to help get you through the needle. And so I'm just inserting it at the same height just so that it's even, and then from there you're just tying it like a bow, like you're tying your shoelaces. Nothing fancy about this. This is probably the easiest step of the entire project, and from there you have crocheted your first project ever, or maybe it's your second or third, but you'll have this gorgeous summer halter to rock out with. So I hope that you had fun crocheting this, and we'll see you guys in our next video.